Hello and welcome. I'm Asima Katauka and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines of this hour. Ambassadors from the Quad nations, the United States, Australia, India and Japan have met in Beijing as China's People's Liberation Army conducted live fire drills around Taiwan amid delays to a 2025 Quad Leaders Summit and shifts in US-China policy as tensions escalate. Thailand has released 18 Cambodian soldiers detained since July under renewed ceasefire agreed over the weekend, ending 20 days of border fighting as the truce holds. Cambodian official Mali Sacheta said the soldiers were handed over after 155 days in custody, while Thailand said they were treated under international humanitarian law. Myanmar's military junta has said that just over 50% of eligible voters took part in the first phase of a three-stage national election at the weekend. The first since the 2021 coup. While the turnout is still sharply lower than the previous two polls, the vote is being held amid a civil war, while the United Nations critiques that the election is neither free nor fair. According to Ukrainian regional officials, Russia has launched an overnight drone attack on Ukraine's Odessa region. Reports show attack has injured 4 people, including 3 children. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Kyiv is discussing possible U.S. troop presence with Washington as security guarantees. He has also signaled readiness to meet Russian President Vladimir Putin in any format to end the war. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has held talks with Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud in Istanbul following Israel's recognition of Somaliland. The meeting focused on strengthening Turkey-Somalia relations, counter-terrorism cooperation, and preserving Somalia's national unity, as several countries condemned Israel's move. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he sees eye-to-eye with the United States on the need for Hamas disarmament. He adds that a new government in Gaza is possible if Hamas is disarmed. The United Arab Emirates said it is withdrawing its remaining counter-terrorism forces from Yemen as rift between the UAE and Saudi deepens. The escalation came after Saudi-led coalition forces struck the port of Mukalla, marking the most serious clashes yet between Saudi-blocked forces and UAE-aligned southern separatists. Now for this hour, we start with Asia. The Taiwanese Coast Guard has said that Chinese warships and Coast Guard vessels are withdrawing from waters around Taiwan. With Beijing drills appearing to be over, the Coast Guard has added that few Chinese ships are still lingering outside the 24 nautical mile line. Meanwhile, China has said that the drills were a stern warning to the separatist Taiwan leader. Let's listen into what a Chinese spokesperson has shared.
军有关军事行动是对台独分裂势力和外部势力干涉的严正警告，是捍卫国家主权和领土完整的必要正义之举。赖清德当局搞台独分裂活动，无原则媚外，无底线卖台，不惜牺牲台湾经济发展和民生福利，在勾连外部势力谋独挑衅、穷兵黩武的邪路上狂奔，严重破坏两岸关系，严重威胁台海和平稳定。
Meanwhile, Japan has said that the live drills around Taiwan increased tensions across the Taiwan Strait. Australia has also condemned the drills, calling them destabilizing. China has stated that countries who have criticized the drills are irresponsible. Now for this discussion, we welcome Dr. Satoru Nagao. He's a fellow at Hudson Institute, joins us live from Tokyo. Thank you very much, Dr. Nagao, for joining us once again. Good to see you. Now, looking at this, what's the situation between China, Japan, and Taiwan now?
In this case, firstly, we need to emphasize that China's military exercise is quite a provocative one because the area of the exercises looks like the blockade of the Taiwan and which surrounded Taiwan. And indeed, of course, it is not the first time, but at the same time, they conduct these exercises, and but the area of the exercises is approaching to the land of Taiwan. So in the past, it was far from Taiwan, but now it's very close to the Taiwan. So one step by step, the area of the exercise is closing to the land of Taiwan. And at the same time, this time a little bit interesting is the reaction of the United States. US hasn't criticized so much about it. So that's why there's a possibility information US got is this is exercises, but if China want to escalate this exercise to the real blockade or real invasion, maybe view from their preparation, for example, amount of the ammunition dump or food or ration dump. Indeed, it is impossible for China to step up this exercise to be the real invasion or real blockade, the US think. But at the same time, in the past, the US president criticized such kind of exercise relatively strong words. So that's why the view from the other US allies, which will follow the US decision, is a little bit confused. So that's why the first day, second day, there is no reaction from the many countries. But after the US reaction is relatively moderate, view from the US allies, maybe they should fill the gap, which means that allies should criticize China's move. So that's why now Japan, Australia, Europe, other countries, many other US allies coincidentally criticize China's move, and suddenly, one day later, after the exercises, it has happened. A little bit interesting is, of course, even if China conducted these exercises, China hasn't stepping up these exercises just now. So there's a possibility that their preparation is only for exercises just now, but in the near future, such kind of the exercises could be prelude of the real invasion or real blockade. And so that's why countries around China, including Taiwan, Japan, Philippines, or the US and the US allies, Australia, India, of course, everyone should focusing on China's move or detail of China's move, which has the possibility to become a real blockade or real invasion.
Right. And lastly, Dr. Satoru, what role does U.S. continued and increasing U.S. arms sales and allied involvement play in this conflict? Not conflict,
U.S.
sorry.
view from the action of the United States, U.S. provide weapons, and the U.S. is sending the ships around Japan and around Taiwan. That is true. So U.S. presence is there, U.S. weapon is there. So that's why view from the action, U.S. has already shown the effort to defend Taiwan. But view from the statement, vocal statement, the President Trump or U.S. government hesitant to say something very strong word. So that's why the country around China are worrying about U.S. statement. And so sometimes they try to fill the gap of this image. So country around China worry about China's provocative action they need to express. So that is a little bit concerning point view from country around China. That is true. But still, we should not forget view from the move, real move. U.S. has shown a very strong presence to defend Taiwan.
Thank you for highlighting that, Dr. Satoru Nagao. Please stay with us as we come back to you. Now we stay in the region. Thailand has released 18 Cambodian soldiers it had detained since July, following a renewed ceasefire agreement between the two countries. Cambodian and Thai officials have confirmed the handover took place on Wednesday at a border checkpoint, ending 155 days of detention. The release comes after a ceasefire took effect on 27 December, bringing an end to the 20 days of intense border fighting that has killed at least 101 people and displaced more than 500,000 on both sides. The clashes involved fighter jets, rocket fire, and heavy artillery. The soldiers were initially due to be returned on 30th December, but Thailand delayed the move, citing alleged ceasefire violations, which Cambodia has denied. Thailand's foreign ministry says the soldiers were treated in line with international humanitarian law. The conflict had flared again earlier this month after a previous ceasefire brokered with the help from U.S. President Donald Trump and Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim broke down. Now for this discussion, we welcome back Dr. Satoru Nagao. He's a fellow at Hudson Institute, joins us live from Tokyo. Thank you very much, Dr. Nagao, for staying with us. Now, looking at this, how do you analyze, how is the situation? Do you think it's still fragile, or do you think it's positive and the ceasefire is holding on between Thailand and Cambodia?
This is very positive because view from the military balance between Thailand and Cambodia, in the battle, Cambodia lost many soldiers, but Thailand did not. There is a possibility such kind of situation has happened. But Cambodia want to hide this damage. So that's why in the past, when Thailand suggested Cambodia to accept dead bodies, Cambodia side repeatedly say this is not ours, and they publish damage of them is very a small number indeed, because persuading Cambodian people to continue the war, and our damage is very small, Cambodia want to say to their people. So that's why they refuse to accept a dead body in the Thailand side. So Cambodian soldier in Thailand side. So there are certain number of the bodies still exist in Thailand side, and Cambodia refused to accept, but Thailand want to send. So that is why if the Cambodia start to accept these bodies, this war is enter a really ending process. So Cambodia receives the body and deliver to this body to the real families. So that's why Cambodia start to accept what really happened. That is a possibility. It has really happening just now. Because before military power, it is clear that Thailand has air force and navy, and once if the real battle has happened between two, indeed it could be the one-side game. So that's why more casualty has happened in Cambodian side, I believe. And yes, now Cambodia start to accept these casualties.
With that, I would like to thank Dr. Satoru Nagao for joining us today from Tokyo and sharing that insight. Thank you very much. Now we move on to Europe. Bulgaria is set to adopt the euro today at midnight, becoming the 21st member of the Eurozone. Nearly 20 years after joining the European Union, the national lev in use since the late 19th century is being phased out as the country enters the new year with a historic currency shift. It has also been said that the euro will strengthen the economy, deepen ties with the West, and limit Russian influence. According to the reports, Bulgaria is ending the year with strong growth above 3% and inflation around 3.6%. However, the transition has been met with public concern. Nearly half of Bulgarians are opposing to adopting the euro. Amid fears of higher prices, food costs have already risen, protests have been held, and queues for euros have been seen in Sofia. Banks have warned of temporary payment disruptions, while authorities insist short-term challenges will give way to long-term economic gains. Now for this discussion, we welcome Ms. Alison Mutler, she's a former AP Bureau Chief in Romania, joins us live from Bucharest. Thank you very much, Ms. Mutler, for joining us once again. Good to see you. Now, thank you. Now, looking at this, why are people in Bulgaria, hesitant of changing their currency from their currency to euro?
Well, in the European Union, Bulgaria is one of the poorer countries. The wages are lower. And I think there's fear that joining the Eurozone, I think there's two things. I think there's an economic fear that the prices will shoot up, they'll rise, and they will. That's historically been shown to be true in other countries. But I think amongst some older people, there's an idea that we're going to lose our national identity. In Bulgaria's history, they've only ever had, this is the second currency they've ever had. They've had the leva, which is what they have now, and now they're moving to the euro. So I think it's a mixture of the two, but I think the main concern for people is an economic uncertainty. They're worried that their pensions will fall, the prices will rise. And, some people at the beginning are resistant to change. And as authorities have said, there will be some natural disruptions at the beginning, but in the long term, it will be good. It's a small country, Bulgaria. It's 6.4 million people, so it's not a huge country in terms of population. But I think it's often the older people, and of course there is Russian disinformation about, Europe is about to collapse. But I think the main concern is the economic ones, not the idea that they're losing their their former national currency.
Thank you for highlighting that. And, building on the Russia factor here, how could this euro adoption influence Bulgaria's leverage in reducing Russian economic, also political influence?
Well, by aligning themselves to the Eurozone, becoming, as you said earlier, the 21st country, Bulgaria has a place at the table. It has a say in interest rates. And it also is more harmonious. It can, Bulgarians can travel to all the other 20 countries with their own currency, as can Europeans travel to Bulgaria and use euros rather than wondering what currency do they use in Bulgaria. So it does tie it more firmly to the European family of nations. Most of the EU members, apart from a few, including Romania, where I live, are part of the Eurozone, and this makes Bulgaria close to that group. And I think it's actually the first Christian Orthodox country to join it. So every country which uses the euro, it's not just a euro. They have their own personal, they have their own personal emblem on it, and they're going to be putting two Bulgarian saints. So even though it is the euro, it still has a national flavour, a national identity, and I think that is important for people in every country, that they're not just part of a big pot.
Yes, thank you for highlighting that. I didn't know that. I'll check it. Thank you. And what are the potential domestic and also political consequences of, although maybe not many, but the public opposition, as you mentioned earlier, maybe some older generation are hesitant because of, their identity might be tied to the currency and the uncertainty that this disruption or this currency transition might bring?
I mean, there have been protests last year. I mean, Bulgaria has kept delaying implementing the euro, and that was for purely economic reasons. There are, I think, 5, I don't want to get too technical, but there's 5 what they call convergence points that a country has to meet in order to join the Eurozone and use the euro. And one of them is, a key one is inflation, and inflation in Bulgaria is not that high. It's gone down to 2.8%, I think, whereas a few years ago it was above 10%. So they have been quite careful with the economy. I think there may be protests at the beginning, but I imagine people will gradually get used to having the euro and they will die down. But I also think that Russia will probably try and stoke unrest and divisions in Bulgarian society over this, because it's another sign that Europe is united, that it's a rich club, which is what Russia dislikes. And the thing with Bulgaria is their language is quite close to the Russian, and they have historic, obviously, and political links, or they did have, to Russia before the revolution. So I think there will continue to be some, some people be dissatisfied, but I think the protests will die down as people get used to having the using the euro, and also seeing their saints on every coin they spend.
Behind that. Thank you very much, Ms. Mutler, for sharing that. Please stay with us as we come back to you. Now we focus on to North America. The U.S. Justice Department has revealed that it has 5.2 million pages of Epstein files left to review and needs 400 lawyers from 4 different department offices to help with the process through late January. This is likely to extend the final release of the documents to much later than expected after a December 19 deadline set by the Congress earlier. U.S. President Donald Trump's administration has ordered the Justice Department to release the files tied to criminal probes of Jeffrey Epstein, the late financier and convicted sex offender, who was friends with Trump in the 1990s in compliance with the transparency law passed by the Congress last month. Now for this discussion, we welcome back Ms. Alison Mutler from Bucharest. Thank you very much, Ms. Mutler, for staying with us. Now looking at this, how do you think this further delay, not just one delay, but again a delay, will be affecting? And what do you think, U.S. government should have kept in mind before promising the public of the release date and etc.?
Well, it's rather a mess, but it's also very complicated. As you said, there's 5.2 million files. That's an enormous amount, and the administration already said they need 400 lawyers, and I think they will have to review 1,000 documents a day. Now that's a lot of work. So it is a political problem. It became a political problem, which is why Trump had to, in the end, had to agree to the release of the files. But we weren't talking about a few hundred files. We're talking millions of files, and not just millions of files. These are on potentially some of the revelations that will come out will be shocking. It will affect very important people, politicians, business people, etc. Maybe even actors. We don't know. The former Prince Andrew has been in the files. So I think there's a lot of trepidation and concern and fear. And there was a report that Donald Trump yelled at Marjorie Greene, who's leaving Congress, "You're going to embarrass my friends." So I think there is a lot of concern, but also I think the administration, particularly the Department of Justice, wants to be seen to be doing this task properly, and they can't just rush it through in a couple of days because it'll be superficial and the files won't be viewed. So it is a setback, but on the other hand, I think when we're talking about this huge number of files, it's quite understandable that it can't be just done in a couple of days, and the deadline will be pushed back into probably mid-January or even later.
Yeah, right. And don't you think that these the U.S. DOJ, do you think they didn't know that there are 5.2 million pages of Epstein files? Or is it just that they just found out that, oh, they're much more than we assumed or we thought?
Well, very good question. It's hard to say what they know and what they don't know. And also a lot of files were kept. But this is the reality, and I think the fact that we are being informed, I think it was just this morning, that there are 5.2 million files shows an attempt by the Department of Justice at transparency, and they're saying we're not hiding anything. We have a huge number of files, and we need 400 lawyers for this job, and it will take us probably weeks more. So I think I'm sure people in the Department of Justice knew there were more than 5 million files still that hadn't been opened and revealed to the public. Politicians probably, there was some information known about it, and it's very embarrassing for the administration, but they are trying to be as transparent as possible. I think probably the top level did know that there was a huge number of files, and I think people in the Department of Justice did, but the general public didn't, and probably ordinary members of Congress didn't know either. There may have been rumors. I don't know.
Yes, thank you for highlighting that. And lastly, Ms. Mutler, Now, as we know that last time also it was delayed, and then when the files came out, some people were disappointed because a lot of them it was smudged or blacked out, and then some pictures which were revealed were already in public, not new to the eyes. So, do you think public is still trusting this process, and how could this further delay of Epstein file affect the public trust in U.S. Justice Department and perceptions of, once again, transparency?
I think that you're right that the people that release the files control the information, and I think there is a problem with public trust, that they won't trust what they see, or they will say it will be selectively released, selectively made public. So yes, I think that there are concerns, and I think perhaps they're saying there's 5 million. It's an attempt to make the public trust the process more. But let's see what the files reveal. But I think that public trust is a key issue here. I think the administration is trying to overcome it. Let's see what they do. But yes, I mean, Donald Trump has been reported to want to defend his friends, and it's unclear how much he can control that, or people around in his circle can control that. But we'll see when the files are released whether it's more transparent this time. I mean, they say they need to smudge the names out, black the names out, conceal them, because they're protecting victims, people who have been abused. But that's not, I don't think people are buying that line. They're thinking that people who are important and high up and connected to Trump are being protected.
Yes, I agree. Thank you for highlighting that and sharing that insight with us, Ms. Smuggler. Thank you very much. Now we move on to our next news. Meta Platforms has been sued by the U.S. Virgin Islands over claims that scam advertisements were knowingly allowed on Facebook and Instagram, exposing users, including children, to harm. The lawsuit was filed in the Superior Court on St. Croix and seeks penalties under consumer protection laws. It has been alleged that Meta put ad revenue ahead of user safety, with internal projections showing around 10% of its 2024 income came from scam and illegal ads. The lawsuit also claims ads were blocked only when misconduct was detected with near certainty. However, Meta has rejected the allegations, saying fraud is aggressively tackled. Following the case, U.S. senators have urged federal regulators to examine the matter. That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.